Hi, my name is Samuel, but Sam is fine. I've been working for the last couple of months as a web developer and recently I had a raise. This will allow me to move on from my parents' house, in which the situation is just unbearable. However, it was difficult to find a house or apartment which doesn't leave me drowned in debts. But suddenly, there was one that appeared like it was just for me. A big house, 2 floors, and a backyard for only $3,000. Yeah, this was a total fake or someone pulling a prank, but I gave it a try. I was expecting some dude answering the phone, giving the direction of the house in which we will meet, and then just find out it was a park or some shit, or maybe it was a scam to get robbed. A woman answered the phone. I will refer to her as Alex. I asked about the house I found on the webpage. She just gave me an address to go and talk about the house and said something about meeting me in person. I thought it was just a person selling her grandmother's house or whatever, that people get kinda special about a place. Anyways, we agreed to meet at 3 p.m. Obviously, I checked the direction on Google Maps and found out it was an office building. The next day I took a bus to her office. It took me about 15 minutes to get there. As soon as I arrived, the guard told me where her office was. She received me and asked if I wanted something to drink, which I refused. I sat across her desk, then she started asking questions about me, my work, family, and more. After a moment of silence, she said, "Look, Sam, you are a good kid, but this house is not made for a person like you. I suggest you save money and buy another house. What's the problem with this one?" I asked. Well, it is what many people would call a problematic house. By law, I'm forced to tell you what happened there, but it will be better if I show you. Then she opened the drawer and took a big folder, put it on the desk and slid it too. I opened it. Inside were documented police reports. Murders, missing people, and drug bans were only the first 3 pages. Meanwhile, I read the file. She started talking. The reason is so cheap, it's because I just want to get rid of the place. I hope to call the attention of some mobs to use the house for money laundering. I cannot sell the house to any company for demolishing or building. It happens to be an antique house, so the government forbade me to do that. I won't stop you from buying it. I lost too many years of my life with that problem. If you want it after looking at that folder, it's up to you. That really let me up with a bad feeling. But the idea of spending another year with my parents was the only thing I needed to make the decision, so I accepted. For the next 2 weeks, we did all the paperwork and agreed to meet at the house. Alex refused to let me in before I signed. She told me once I entered it was my problem. Finally, the day arrived. I met her at the house. She was sitting at the door drinking coffee from the store. "Well, Sam, here you have it." She extended me a folder. "Here are all the documents that state this is now your property and the keys." "Thank you," I replied. "Guess I just need to buy some furniture." About that, most of the previous owners didn't change the old ones, and they are still in good form. But if you don't like one, just throw the ones that aren't listed in the documents. She said goodbye and walked away, and I just rushed the door. But before I could stick the key in, she screamed to me, "And you should sign one document in the folder." The inside of the house was dirty. Years of collecting dust left it in a very bad state, but the furniture was good like Alex said. On the left side was the living room, with a large sofa and 2 single chairs around a table in front of the fireplace. Across was the dining table, a large 12-seat piece of wood with candlesticks. On the right side was the kitchen. It was big enough to have 10 people working on it. I sat down at one of the single chairs in the living room. It was covered with a piece of cloth. Then opened the folder and let the documents fall on the table. I quickly spotted the one she told me to sign. It was an old piece of paper, like the ones you see in the Western movies when the character has to sign a contract. I signed above the bottom line with my name on it. It was folded paper. I will transcript what I remember. "Greetings. If you are reading this, it is because you are the new owner of the property. I am sorry to tell you this is not a welcome letter to tell you about how great your life will be at this house. It is a guide to keep you alive in this place. This is a formality between the owners of this house if you decide to sell it after handing this paper to the next owner. There are some rules you need to follow. The consequences of breaking these rules are high, but I assure you that if you follow them, there is nothing to worry about. Rule number 1. The butler and the dog. This is more a presentation than a rule. In the living room, you should find a silver bell. Ringing it will call the butler of the house. Refer to him as Mr. Bach. He will do anything you ask, as long as it is related to house maintenance. He will not ask for any money for it. However, he might request an object every other month. Give it to him. Nothing bad will happen if you don't, but he will not attend your call again after that. On the other hand, the canine is a Saint Bernard. You may name it any name you want. Whisper and he will come to you. It is important to know that these two entities do not go along, and if I got to choose, I would go for the canine. Rule number 2. The guests. There is a chance that unexpected guests come to the house. You can open the door and talk to them. However, it is forbidden to bring them into the house. Just let pass the ones you expect to visit. If you break this rule, go out of the house and never return. Now it is under their power. Sometimes you might find them already inside the house. You can also engage in conversation with them. If you want to end the talk, or if they stare at you without blinking for more than a minute, call Mr. Bach and tell him that guests may leave the house. Let him handle it, and do not look. It can be gross. Rule number 3. The stairs. It takes 12 steps to get to the second floor. Keep that number in mind. If you count 14, keep going normally until 20, and the 21st will be the second floor. However, if you did not reach it at that one, run. We have not to know the first person who can tell us what happens. If that catches you, it devours them. After 50 steps, you will find the second floor. Keep running through the hall, and do not enter or look into the rooms. Jump at the end through the window. Rule number 4. The bathroom. It is in front of the main bedroom. On the second floor, the one on the first floor is safe. Knock on the door every time you want to enter the room. If a lady named Madeline answers, wait 5 minutes and then enter normally, but if any male voice answers, call Mr. Bach. If no one answers, you may enter. Check the water in the sink. If the color is normal, do what you need. If red, break the mirror and open a little cut in your hand, then put it under the stream until it is normal. If 1 minute passes and it is still red, go out and wait 1 hour to try again. If green, fill up the bathtub, immerse yourself completely and wait until it empties, then you might proceed. Rule number 5. The basement. If any of your belongings are lost, you will find them in the basement. Do not go alone and without any light source. Call the dog. Once there, you will find a great dark spot on one of the walls. Order the dog to search your item in the dark and wait for him. If any other dog comes out, kill it. If the canine does not come back in 5 minutes, go out of the basement and try again. The next day, do not worry about the dog. Rule number 6. The study room is the first door after the stairs on the second floor. Inside you will find a great library. Enjoy any book of your choice or use it as a workspace. If any of the books fall off the shelf on its own, take it and read it until it is closed by itself, then put it back on the shelf. Do not refuse to read neither. Take it away. Don't look despite what you hear or see. That will take it as an offense. Also, wear a watch with the current time and check if the one in there has the same time as yours. Do not leave if they do not match. Rule number 7. The backyard. After 5 p.m., there is no one in the backyard. There is nothing happening in the backyard. You did not hear anything coming from the backyard. Rule number 8. The main bedroom. This is the only safe place on the second floor. Do not be outside of this room from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you happen to be outside, I hope they do not find you. Sleep with the dog if that helps. Rule number 9. The house. As long as your expected guests are on the first floor, there will not be any danger at all. But get used to the fact they forget about the dog or the butler. And last but not least, do not leave the house for more than a month. Sincerely, Arthur V. December of 1809. I known these stories for some time, so I thought Alex did too, and she was trying to make fun of me. This made me laugh and kept me entertained for some minutes. Anyway, I decided to explore the second floor to see what was there. It was great to have a new house while going up. I took my phone and opened a chat with my best friend. We needed to throw a party. I was so distracted that it took me some seconds to notice I was supposed to reach the second floor some steps before. Then I felt it, the coldest breath at my nape. The walls started to rot and I ran in panic. I could hear how that thing was coming for me, how it knew that each step was more difficult than the other. After a minute of going up, I finally reached the second floor and kept running. My first thought was to enter a room, so I stopped at the first one on the left. The door was open. Inside was a man tied to an electric chair. He asked for help, but suddenly the chair turned on and I ran away. Those screams were not from a human. I felt like the hall was longer than normal, but when I finally reached the window, I jumped through without thinking. For about 5 minutes, I fell through a void where the sounds fade away. Then I landed on the couch on the first floor. In a panic attack, I took the keys and left the house and ran home. Now I'm in my room at my parents' house. I tried to call Alex. She didn't pick up. Guys, I don't know what to do. Hi again. I've been busy these days with work, and just today I got time to write again. I looked at some comments of the previous part and noticed that some of you think I am naive and should sell the house. Right now, I'm redacting this from the studio. I'll get to that later, but wanted to make sure that indeed I came back to the house. For you to be in perspective, I shall start by talking about a part of my personal life and why I decided to buy the house despite the red flags, and the reason I came back. My mother is a lovely person, so sweet that thanks to her, I learned that the best reward for acquiring a job and buying a new phone to replace the broken one is a cigarette burn in my shoulder. On the other hand, my dad has taught me a lot since having to fight with him every time he arrives drunk at the house has to teach you something. But my family wasn't always like this. I guess it was all normal before my brother's death, but now I can't remember much of that life. Now that I mentioned that, I didn't have the time for mourning his death since everything changed after that. I have to thank my best friend. It's thanks to him I got a job because he lent me one of his online courses accounts and also gave me his old laptop to start working, which is also the one where I wrote the story. I should invite him for a coffee one of these days. Clearly not here. Anyway, this is what happened. I ran to my parents' house. As soon as I arrived, I entered my room and locked the door. I couldn't breathe normally. That was a horrible experience. I thought of giving a call to my best friend and talking about what happened, and that's when I noticed something. Alex didn't make me sign an NDA or something to protect the information about the house. Who would believe me that my new house tried to kill me? So I used what I learned from the school therapist and wrote what happened, and I gotta admit it was helpful. After posting it, I gave it a thought about going back there since I had a month to decide. I didn't need to rush it. But a couple of days at my parents' house made me realize I prefer to live in a madhouse that is trying to kill me than living with two morons, because at least the first one would prevent me the suffering from the second one. So I packed my laptop and all the clothes I could fit into my backpack and traveled to the house. I think that every one of us stood in front of a place that gave us chills. That incertitude when we are walking in a dark alley or in front of a graveyard at late night hits different when the feeling comes from a, apparently, normal place. Have you ever thought that the cute granny of your neighborhood contains in her house the most horrible things in the city? However, I brought myself with some courage and walked to the door, inserted the key, and entered the house. I was hoping to find horrors in every corner of the rooms, but instead found again a dirty, lonely place. Everything was exactly from when I left, but anyway, I ran to the living room to see if the rules were gone. Luckily, the papers were still there, so I followed your pieces of advice and reread the rules to memorize them. That's when I found the silver bell on the center of the dining room table. I had a look before taking it, a simple bell with a dark wood handle and some details on the silver, but before I could ring it, someone knocked on the door. I went to the entrance and before opening it, I watched through the peephole. There were two cops, a man and a woman. I opened the door and both of them were surprised to see me. "Good morning. Are you the new owner?" asked the man. "Yes," I answered. "So, you should know all that happened inside these walls, kid," continued the woman. "The last owner should have told us about the acquisition of this property since we need to do an investigation about the record of the new buyer. Unluckily, we haven't been able to get in contact with her. Do you know anything about her?" "No." "Well, kid, we need to enter the house to check everything is in order." "Shit." Alex didn't tell me that the police were going to get involved, so these could be the incoming guests of rule number 2. But what if they were real cops? This could get me into trouble and I would get arrested for police obstruction. I was trying to think of something fast, but my heart skipped a beat when the man put his hand on my shoulder and moved me away. Shit, the rules didn't say they will try to break into it, but just to insist. My hand hit the door, ringing the bell in which resounded all the house with a ding. Out of nothing, a white glove blocked the way of the officer and pushed him back out of the house before he could put a foot into the house. "Good morning, officer," greeted calmly the man behind the glove. "With pleasure, I will let you in. You can provide me with the order which authorizes you to do so." This man that suddenly appeared was the same height as the officer. It looked like a man in his mid-40s, slim, brown, short-haired, blue eyes, and with signs of age on the face. Wearing a traditional tuxedo, black shiny shoes, and a chain hanging from his pocket, with a fragrance that stuck in your memory. "Excuse me," shouted the officer. "Are you aware of what you just did?" "Indeed, I prevented a stranger from entering the property," answered the butler calmly. "We are officers, mister," interrupted the woman. "I am Mr. Bach, the butler, and besides, being two officers does not exempt from following the law. Have a good day." Immediately, the butler closed the door on the cop's face, and before I could say something, he looked at me. "I am sorry, sir, but I must ensure that you are in fact the owner of the property and not a phony." "What?" "Allow me to see the document in which is stated what you said to those things." "Oh, sure, follow me, please." I led him to the living room, where I gave him that old document Alex gave me. He took it and, after putting on a monocle, read it from top to bottom. Then he felt the red seal on the top right corner and gave it back to me. "Welcome to the house, Master Samuel." "Thanks, I guess." You referred to the cops as things. A leopard can't change its spots, or a zebra can't change its stripes, right? "Sure, you did the right thing calling me, but you shall learn how to be more persuasive with your undesired guests. Anyway, I will prepare the place for your comfort. I beg you to wait for me at the studio, please." I almost fainted when he pointed at the stairs. I know that thing is still there, waiting for me to make a mistake and catch me. I couldn't find a way to say to him, "I don't want to go up," or that I couldn't. "My apologies, Master Samuel. I just recall that you do not know the place. Please, allow me to take you to the studio." He put his hand on my back and gave me a little push, making my feet move forward. I don't know why, but he gave me confidence, which vanished as soon as we were at the stairs. Mr. Bach requested me to go up. I obliged. I closed my eyes and started to count every step. 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11, 12. I almost fell trying to go up on an extra step. I opened my eyes and saw the second floor, a large hall with 2 doors on the left side and 1 on the right. The path was set upon a dark red carpet. Mr. Bach opened the first door on the left and made me enter. The walls in the studio were covered with books. Also, there are some tables with instruments and a single couch in which you could sit and read for hours. "Welcome to the studio, where you could do any task you desire. At your service is the large library to enlarge your knowledge or satisfy your curiosity." "Yes, I guess." Mr. Bach turned around and left the room. Despite what happened the last time I was here, this studio made me forget it for a second. The feeling of being here is calm. I took my laptop and put it on the desk to start working. Minutes later, Mr. Bach came with a cup of coffee. Not gonna lie, this has been the best coffee I ever drank. He said it came from a Colombian town. I think that was the only moment I did so much work. Being in a quiet room really makes you more proficient. Then I faced one of the particularities of the studio when the clock of the room showed it was 4:30 but my watch showed 4:15. I followed the rule and stayed inside until both clocks matched at 4:45 p.m. I decided to go downstairs for something to eat. Mr. Bach cleaned all the house and I gotta admit it looked neat. While I was about to walk into the kitchen, trying to call Alex again, I heard a voice coming from the dining room. "Excuse me, what kind of host are you?" a husky voice said behind me. "What?" "Yes, I have been here for more than a minute and nobody offered me a good wine to drink." When I turned around, I faced an elder lady dressed like an aristocrat. She was wearing this old wig with a ridiculous hairstyle. Another undesired guest, and this time the bell was upstairs. I should stick it to my hand. "Sir Arthur, you are clearly not what they told me." "Excuse me, She interrupted me again and started talking about some kind of business this Arthur had with her family. I know Arthur was the author of the rules, and obviously a previous owner, but I had no idea what business he had with this woman. With no other options, I tried to persuade her, just like Mr. Bach suggested. "Madam, I think we would be more comfortable talking about business in the studio, wouldn't we?" "Yes, Arthur, you are right. Follow me, please." I was walking in front of her. I wasn't going to make the mistake of letting her push me downstairs if that thing came up again. We reached the second floor at 12 steps again and entered the studio. I quickly reached the bell on the desk and rang it. Mr. Bach entered the room after a couple of seconds. "Is this your butler? Splendid. Bring me your best wine," requested the woman. Mr. Bach looked at her with disdain, then he talked to me. "Tell me, Master Samuel, what can I do for you? Guests may leave the house." "Of course," answered he, then walked to the woman. "Please, madam, follow me." "What kind of disrespect is this, Arthur? Are not you aware?" Before she could finish the sentence, Mr. Bach took her head with his glove and smashed it repeatedly in the bookshelf behind her. A black and viscose substance splashed in all directions. Before I could look away, the butler smashed what was left of her head into the ground. "My apologies, sir," said Mr. Bach in a strange, calm voice. "I will. You won't be safe here, boy," shouted it, losing all the humanity in its voice. "This will never." Their screams were silenced by the butler's heel, who stepped multiple times, splashing even more the black substance. "As I was saying, I will come back soon to clean. Sorry for the inconvenience." Mr. Bach left the room, dragging that thing's corpse. I threw up and went to the bathroom, where I almost forgot to knock. Luckily, it was safe to go. When I came back to the studio, all was clean and neat, like it never happened. I decided to continue working. Coding makes me forget about everything else, so I would make it easy. But my laptop was gone. Great, this house really waited for me to come back. This made me remember that there was a guardian dog, which is necessary on Rule 6. I put my fingers between my lips and whistle a little sound. I waited for about a minute or more, but nothing came. When I was going to whistle louder, I heard some scratches at the door before it was opened. A giant dog entered the room and ran towards me. He put his front paws on my shoulders and licked my face. I almost fell to the ground due to his weight. The rule said I may give him a name, so I called him Brooke. After that, on the plate on his necklace appeared the name I gave him. We went to the first floor, walked through the kitchen, and reached the basement's door. It was hard to ignore the human silhouette in the backyard. I turned on my cell phone's flashlight, and we went downstairs. The basement was full of all kinds of stuff, shelves with boxes and tools, a workbench, and many pipes going around the walls. In the opposite corner of the stairs was a dark moss. The smell of that was disgusting. Almost threw up again. "Brooke, can you bring my laptop?" The dog looked at me, tilting its head to the right. I guess he was confused, like he didn't know what a laptop is. I described to him what it looked like, trying to make a rectangle with my hands. Without making any sound, he ran through the moss. I kept my eye on the watch, and when the minute was about to finish, a sound came from the moss. At first, I was relieved that Brooke found it out. You know laptops aren't cheap these days, but then I was horrified to see a husky coming out of the moss. The animal stood still, looking at me without making any sound, not even breathing. I quickly focused on the pipe on the workbench, but when I started moving towards it, the dog barked. "Easy," I said, putting my hands in front. "You did well." It looked at me for an instant, doubting. I took the advantage to achieve some steps. It was then when the dog came towards me. Its snout broke into 4 parts, revealing a chain of dark and sharp teeth. Then, his paws twisted while some appendices rose from its chest, taking him up from the ground. That thing didn't produce any sound when it attacked me. Without any doubt, I took the pipe and hit it before that snout reached me. After getting hit, it mourned like a dog, but after seeing the guests, I rushed it before it could stand up again and hit it repeatedly. Every strike dragged him away from that dog mourn, making it sound like an old man barking. I stopped when it was more of a black mass than a creature. Then a sound came again from the moss. I was scared and prepared to run when Brooke came out of the moss with my laptop in his mouth. He ran at me, putting his paws again in my shoulder and waving his tail with happiness. I dropped the pipe and praised him, took my laptop from his mouth, and went upstairs. I searched in all the kitchen's drawers and shelves but found nothing. Not even that Colombian coffee Mr. Bach gave me, so I guess it went down to the list of things to keep in mind when he asked for something. "I'm sorry, Brooke, but I couldn't find anything to give you. Tomorrow I will do grocery shopping and bring you something." The dog gave a sad look, then turned around and walked towards the backyard. I avoided following him with the sight. With my laptop, I went upstairs again, this time taking me 20 steps. This is what happened today. As I said before, I think the house waited for me and accumulated all that. Or maybe just bad luck. Anyway, I will see that tomorrow when I come again. Or that's what I thought because a book just fell off the shelf. Thank thank you to my super fans, Sweet Black Swan, Tacy, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I look forward to making more content for everyone.